What exactly is happening between Steve Kerr and Jonathan Kuminga? Like, I don't want to be having this conversation. I really don't. But Dub Nation, we got to have it, right? So Steph, Wiggins, and Melton are out this week, right? And Kerr takes the opportunity to shuffle the starting lineup basically as soon as he could, right? The pecking order had been disturbed. And so Kerr's like, well, now I can shuffle around. And JK, you're going to come off the bench, right? Okay, fine. And I think what Kerr is, the message he's trying to send Kuminga is, I think this is the best role for you right now. You saw his offensive outburst off the bench these last two games, right? And he can have the ball more. That's what we're seeing with Kuminga. It's kind of like, hey, he needs the ball to be effective and he needs to find a rhythm. And so Kerr sees that probably better with the second unit. He has all along, but he also understands this contract situation and the optics of it. So he started Kuminga knowing, hey, the first opportunity I get, I'm going to try and nudge him to that six-man role. Now, that's me, just speculating here, right? But I wasn't really tripping about it until someone was like, hey, did you see the quotes from the Anthony Slater article via The Athletic when they asked Kuminga about, going to the bench? I was like, no, let me check it out, right? So here are the quotes. I feel like I still went back in there at the small forward and it did not change anything, Kuminga said. Maybe it was just trying to see something else. I don't know. It wasn't my decision. I got a text. This is how it's going to work. This is how it's going to look. This is how it's going to be. Kuminga said the text came from Kerr pregame, a text. I don't like that. Like that's what, you can't face-to-face tell him that? That seems weird right off the jump, right? More quotes from Kuminga. He said, quote, yeah, and I went with it, Kuminga said. What else am I going to brag about it and say? Why am I not starting? No, it's his decision. He's the coach. I guess we're going to follow what he's going to do. Now, there is still a language barrier with Kuminga. Some stuff can get lost in translation, and I hate not having the tone of this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't tweet as much as maybe I would because so much is lost in tone, right? When you just read text. But even in the text alone, I guess we're going to follow what he's doing, right? And, you'd imagine this was very monotone from Kuminga, right? But I don't understand why. Is that just how things work now in the NBA with Gen Z? You just text them, hey man, you're going to the bench. But yeah, so this brewing situation with Kerr and Kuminga, and again, I think Kerr's agenda has always been to nudge him to the sixth man, not necessarily as a personal thing towards Kuminga, but what he feels is best for the team. That's what, you'd hope the coach's agenda was. And listen, Kuminga is showing these flashes. You saw him go at Ingram down the stretch of that game, that nasty inverted Euro step. You see him make the right passes downhill, albeit they need to be a little bit accurate, right? But you also see that he needs the ball. And yeah, he can make some cuts. He has good timing at cutting. But I think coming into year 4 now, like I still watch him every game completely blow box outs. And then continuously defend is really the issue. Like, he'll be engaged on the ball and he'll make a play, right? And then you can watch his body language like relax, like, okay, for a second. And then it's like, oh, dang, the ball got swung around and I'm late, right? And I don't know if these habits are ever going to be, I think this is kind of who he is. And he's going to have these bad habits. However, if you nurture him with the ball, it maybe is going to be worth it. There are a ton of, ironically, Brandon Ingram, right, shows you he can be a dominant scorer, albeit he has some bad habits with his floor game. Like, that can be Kuminga, though Kuminga, I think, has a better motor than Brandon Ingram, and he has a better competitive spirit. So I think potentially, offensively, he could maybe even be more effective than Brandon Ingram. But I don't think he's ever going to be this two-way guy that we all envisioned. That's just my thoughts, here coming into year 4. I get his age is young, but this is his 4th season. And habits are hard to break, man. We know habits are hard to break. And ironically, that would be the thing. It's all the little things that Kerr values so much are the things that he has bad habits at. So he comes off the bench. What did he have? 16 points, 6 of 12 shooting. And it was a good performance. And I think in Kerr's mind, he's like, aha, see, you played well, we won, and so now you'll be fine in that role. He started Lindy Waters last night, only took 5 shots. But it was Kerr saw this opportunity. The moment Steph was out, he's like, all right, now I can really tinker with things. My biggest issue with the rotations, at least last night, were that second quarter, second unit with Kyle Anderson and Draymond in the front court. That was rough. I know Draymond made 3 threes, and young Hawkins is a stud, right? He is a stud, but he poked the bear there. That probably was a mistake. But the slow-mo Draymond, maybe it was just stylistically that matchup, but those were the roughest minutes of the game. And you saw Trace, he only played 6 minutes in the first half. To me, it's not going to be easy. We've talked about 12, 13 guys. Kerr, I think, sometimes comes into a game with an agenda about the rotation. And that slow-mo Draymond front line, maybe he just wanted to try it, but part of it was, hey, I haven't played slow-mo enough, so I got to fit him in here. And in turn, it kind of punished Trace, and it hurt the team. Because in the third quarter, Trace starts like he starts, and we kind of just blew them off the floor again, right? His vertical spacing and him acting as like a check down in the dunker spot. Because how many times did pods in the offense get stagnant where they kind of penetrated, got to the paint, looked around, no one was open, and then the paint was collapsing. And when you watch Trace in there at the dunker spot, the big or the second defender is reluctant. He knows that there's that lob threat, and then obviously vertically spacing, rolling the floor. And so styles make fights. There may be a matchup where the Draymond slow-mo front court works against a Boston or something like that. But I think it's going to, if it were to work, you need Steph in there as well, right? You need his gravity offensively. But even though the offense sputtered, they're hanging their hat on their defense, right? And you're hearing about how much of an impact Jerry Stackhouse has, and you're seeing this team, the identity, start to hopefully develop a killer instinct, right? Put teams away, killer instinct. And then the Draymond performance on Zion, listen, like, I didn't know if he was going to play or not. CJ ducked the smoke. I'm not surprised, right? But Zion, like, if we're talking about conditioning and stamina, right? Steph is like a Tesla. He's not running on the same fuel as y'all. He's not running on fuel, right? If he's charged up, he can just keep going, right? Zion is like an old Army Hummer, right? He's getting like 10 miles per gallon. So I wasn't sure that he would have the conditioning to have back-to-back games, strong games like that. But then you also have to credit Draymond. I do think part of it was Zion on the back-to-back, but I also think that Draymond learned in playing, 5-6 quarters in a row against Zion, he started to learn his tendencies and his timing, because Zion, he elevates and gets into his shot at weird times, weird spots on the floor, right? He doesn't really have a spot. He just gets to that right shoulder and he'll elevate anywhere within the paint. And Draymond started to sync up with his timing and kind of figure him out. And that's such a big part of being an elite defender. You can have the tools, you can follow the game plan, but in real time, can you make adjustments and pick up tendencies? And you saw Draymond learn Zion through these 2 games. And here's why I'm really rooting for Draymond to win Defensive Player of the Year. Because, one, it would be quite the feather in the cap at this age and the way the award has been going and who he's going to be going against. But ultimately, if Draymond were to win that award, you know what that would mean. It would mean we were a top 3 seed in the West and a top 3 defense in the NBA. That's ultimately what that means. It is kind of a team award and team success. And it's encouraging and exciting to see him kind of rejuvenated defensively with this new staff and this new killer instinct that this team is developing. So you've got Houston, Washington, Boston, Cleveland, and OKC, a 5-game road trip. I'm assuming Steph will take the trip, but who knows when he'll play? Is it Boston? Is it going to, maybe that's probably not the game to come back to. Cleveland hasn't lost a game yet. They ran the Lakers off the floor last night, right? And even the Washington Wizards and our old friend Jordan Poole have been playing better. They've got a lot of young athletes and kind of a new look. So listen, as fun as this start has been and as good as the vibes are, I'm very optimistic overall. But I'm also realistic in the fact that if Steph isn't playing in these games, and when is Wiggins going to play? The reality is we could come back from this road trip. It could be a 1-4 road trip, right? Like that's very, very real possibility headed out east on the road against just a murderous row of opponents. And so they're going to be tested. And again, they got to hang their hat on their defense. There's going to be, especially on the road, where some of this depth's not going to shoot the ball as well. If they continue to defend and have that effort level, they'll stay in the games. They'll give themselves a chance late, and then maybe Buddy, Steph, or whomever it may be can get us some unexpected wins or some tough wins here on the road. Hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.